Department of State work of advising centers in more than 170 countries around the world. We promote U.S. higher education to international students by offering accurate, comprehensive, and current information about studying at the U.S. colleges and universities. In Japan, we have 6 education ESA centers: Tokyo, Nagoya, Osaka, Fukuoka, and Sapporo, which are run by U.S. Embassy, Consulate, and Fulbright Japan. If you have any questions, please contact Education ESA nearby. For Education ESA events, please refer to our website, which is shared in the chat box. This Saturday and next Saturday, Education USA Philippines is planning to hold virtual LLM fair. For those who are interested, the registration link is shared in the chat box. So now, please join me welcoming our speakers of best practices for applying to law school. Mr. Anthony Spatola Spatola, Director of Graduate Programs Admission from Emory University School of Law, and Ms. Sandra Kugel, Chief Officer, Global Outreach from University of California, Davis School of Law.
Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Anthony. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick with our presentation. But yes, it's very good to see everybody on the call. I appreciate you joining and looking to learn more about the law school application process here in the United States. So I look forward to working with you and answering any questions that you might have from our presentation. Like I said, my name is Anthony Spatola. I'm the Director of Graduate Admissions here at Emory University School of Law. I have my contact information here. Feel free to contact me after the session by email, or you can send me a message on WhatsApp as well, if that's more convenient. I'm very happy to chat with anybody after the session, either about Emory, or if you want to learn a little bit more about applying to law schools in the United States. So I'm going to cover very briefly a few different topics, but just to give you some tips and tricks on the best way to apply to law school and make your application both competitive for admission, but also competitive for scholarships as well. But I wanted to start and talk really quickly about why studying law in the United States is a good choice. Law schools in the United States create a very high level, high engagement area where you will be challenged to think about legal issues, to think about social issues in very different ways than you're used to. In the US, we have over 200 law schools that you can choose from. And because of this, there's a huge variety of different topics that you'd be able to choose from as you look at an LLM or at a similar degree at a US institution. For us, the LLM is the most popular degree and one that I think provides a lot of value. The LLM, which is our legal master's degree, will allow you to specialize within a certain field of study. So many students who complete a bachelor's in law or complete Juris Doctor prior to coming to an LLM have a very broad understanding of the law, but the LLM allows you to really specialize in one area. So if you'd like to learn more about international law or business law, this allows you to really take a deep dive into that subject. The LLM is also a great way to create a network. So you will meet fellow students, you will meet professors, staff members, other alumni who have graduated the program that you end up joining from all around the world. And it's a really great way to create that network so that as you return to your home country, you'll be able to use that network to better do your job and share knowledge as well. The LLM's also a really, really good way to strengthen your legal English skills. Law is a very global field, but there's a lot of English terms that are used. For most students who come to study law in the United States, their English is very, very good. It's at a high level, but legal English is a very different thing. So it's always good, and LLM is a great way to build those skills. And finally, the law field is an ever-growing and ever more global field. It's one where you'll need to know multiple legal systems. It's one where you'll need to know multiple laws in order to function. And the LLM is a great way. Like I mentioned, you'll meet people from all over the world who can help you figure out what it's like to practice laws in different countries, work with clients from different countries. And it's just a great way to expose yourself. One of the nice things about the LLM program in the United States as well is it will make you eligible to sit for a bar exam here in the United States. So the United States is a little bit different in that we don't have a national license. So students who wish to practice law in the United States need to choose from one of the 50 states here in order to become a licensed lawyer in the United States. So some of the more popular ones include New York, California. For my case, working at Emory, we're located in the state of Georgia, so that's a popular option for us. But Washington, D.C. is another popular one as well that students will choose from. Each state does require different courses that you'll need to take during your time in the LLM program. So it's very important to do your research and make sure you take those courses. But for the most part, as long as you take those courses, you'll be eligible to sit for one of those bar exams. And that always looks great on a resume as you look to transition back to work. So I want to talk briefly through exactly what an LLM application entails, what are the parts of the application, and then give you some strategies to create a really good application, like I said, both for admission and scholarship. So with an LLM application, if you're applying in the United States, almost every law school in the United States goes through an organization called LSAC, which stands for the Law School Admission Council. It's a centralized organization where you can go and create one profile, and then you can use that same profile to apply to multiple schools throughout the United States. Some schools do have their own application system, so you'll need to check with each school that you apply to. But for the most part, schools are participating through LSAC, and so you'll be able to create an application. But we suggest going to LSAC's website, and they have a lot of great resources about applying and what it takes to apply as well. Almost all schools are also going to require a personal statement. So we'll talk more about this in detail, but you're going to look for, why are you applying to an LLM degree? What is your area of interest? What do you want to study? And what are your goals after you graduate the LLM program? What do you want to do in terms of your career? You'll need to include a resume or a CV, along with your transcripts from both your bachelor's work and any postgraduate work that you've done as well before applying to the LLM degree. Most programs will also require at least 2 letters of recommendation, but this will vary by school. So you should check out each school and see how many letters they'll require. Most schools will accept both professional and academic. So it can be a professor, but it can also be a colleague or a supervisor if you're currently working at a law firm or at a court or something along those lines as well. And almost every school will also include an application fee. So you'll want to make sure you know how much it is to apply to each school as well. So in terms of, that's your completed application, you submitted your application, and now it comes to people like me, people who work in admissions. We review your application and decide who we admit to the program and who we don't admit to the program. So I just wanted to give you a sense of how that process works so that as you're creating an application, you'll be able to, craft your application and make an application that meets what the admissions officers are looking for. So I created this chart here. In the United States, almost every school will use what we call a holistic review process. So this means that we're looking at all items on the application. There isn't necessarily one part of the application that would make you an automatic denial, with the exception of some schools being very strict on a TOEFL score, if that is required for you. Outside of that, schools will take into consideration a whole number of things, everything from your GPA, if there's any test scores required, your personal statement, work history, all of that, and they will take it into consideration. But it means that there's no single barrier to you being entered into the program. So for us at Emory, I just use this as an example in terms of what we look for. So we kind of have 4 pieces that we review on each application. So number 1, we're making and looking at the application file. So we want to make sure that everything matches. We want to make sure that what you wrote in your personal statement matches up to what you have on your resume and what you've been telling or talking with the admissions officers about. We want to take a look at your academic credentials. So we want to take a look at your GPA and make sure, you know, it matches the standards that we have at the school. And then we'll take a close look at your essay, that personal statement, which I'll talk a little bit more about how you can make that more successful. And that's how we really learn about you. Most times you won't be able to have an interview or talk with an admissions officer. So that's the best way to really express your goals and mission in the program. And then for us at Emory, we specifically look at what we call community impact. That is how we feel that you would contribute to the community here at Emory. So are you going to be involved in student organizations? Do your interests match up with the classes that we teach? Do they match the faculty and the research that we do? And can you be successful in the program? So for us, we take these 4 pieces, put them all together, and that's what's going to determine whether you get admitted to a program or not. Like I mentioned, the personal statement here at Emory, but for most schools, is a very important piece. For the most part, you will not get an opportunity to talk with the admissions committee before they make a decision. Some schools will do an interview, but most schools do not. So the personal statement's really your opportunity to express your mission, who you are as a person, before an admission decision is made. So I wanted to give some tips on what not to write, but also what to write. So I'm going to start with what you shouldn't do, things that we see a lot of applicants do that can hurt your chances of admission. Number 1, we get this a lot. We get what we call the resume essay or the CV resume, where the applicant will just list off their resume, but just add a couple of sentences. We can see your resume. We know where you worked, when you worked, what you did. It's more important to, again, we're trying to figure out who you are as a person. What are your interests? What are your goals? What are your missions? So we don't want to just read your essay over again. There's also this one, what I did, the summer essay. We get this a lot with students. We call it this because in America, summer is a time where a lot of students do internships or they volunteer somewhere between classes. So a lot of students will just really focus on just that one experience. But again, we want the whole picture of what you do, everything you've done. So don't focus on just one piece of your resume or what you've done. We get a lot of students who try to be funny in their applications, and humor is always good, but we always see a couple of students who, especially sometimes between international borders, different jokes come off in different ways. So just be very careful with anything that you put there that may be misinterpreted by somebody on the admissions committee. And then, of course, you want to avoid the cut and paste version. It's very easy to go on Google and just Google admissions essay and try and copy and paste lines. But it's very easy for us to tell when students do that. Again, we're not looking for perfect writing. We're just looking for something that is genuine and tells us about you. So don't feel like you need to have it be perfect, but we can tell when students just copy and paste items into a statement. So try and avoid that when you can. Finally, the best pieces of advice that I can give, again, the personal statement is a very important piece, so this is why we focus on it. I usually break it down into 3 different sections on how you should write your personal statement. Number 1, you want to make sure you get the attention of the reader. So either a short story or something inspirational that tells us a little bit about who you are and what your interests are. Just a paragraph, maybe even just a couple sentences. I would say, try and imagine you are a person reading your essay. For us on the admissions committee, oftentimes before we read your essay or after we read your essay, we're also reading 15, 20 other essays as well. So sometimes they can get very repetitive and it can get lost in the shuffle. So do something right away in the first couple sentences that will get the attention of the reader and make us want to read a little bit more. The second part of sort of the middle and the largest portion of your statement should be what I call have lunch with me. So write a little bit, pretend, you know, me and you were out to lunch and you had 5 minutes to tell me all your hopes and dreams for going to school. This is what you should put in the middle of the essay, maybe 2, 3, sometimes 4 paragraphs, depending on how much space you have. And then finally, for us, this is what we call the Emory Lawyer for Life, but you can adjust this for each school. Finally, what we're looking for at the end is after graduation, right? What are you gonna do? How are you going to represent the school that you will be attending? Will you be an active alumni? Will you be going to work on a court? Will you be working at a large law firm? What is it that you wanna do and how will you represent the school after you go? So that's a really good way and a really good recipe for creating a strong personal statement. Now, the other piece that I wanted to talk about before I wrap up is the financial aid piece. This is a very important piece for everybody as you contemplate taking your studies to the United States. For better or worse, schools in the United States can be expensive. So it is important to make sure you maximize the amount of scholarship that you can get. Just some basic terms and what you might be looking at. There's a couple pieces that can help you here. For scholarships, you're going to be looking at a couple different types of scholarships. There's what we call merit-based, which will just be included with your application. And these scholarships are given to you with no condition, and they're largely based off of your previous academic work and any professional work that you have. So usually if you have more experience and better grades, you'll get a higher scholarship. Some schools also have grants or what they call named scholarships. Usually this is when an alumni will donate money and create a scholarship fund, and you'll get the scholarship that is after their name in order to. Some of those you do need to apply to. So it's good to check with each school to see if they have those opportunities. And finally, there's assistantships. So you have teaching assistantships or research assistantships that you'll be able to either apply for or use during that. And that will involve doing research for a professor or helping a professor teach a class. One piece that's important here is that the admissions committee will use the same materials that we use for your application for admission. We'll also use that for your scholarship. So it's important to make sure all of those materials match and present you in the best light as well. And we'll talk a little bit more of that in just a minute. Just to give you an example, these are the types of opportunities that we would offer at Emory. So for us, we can provide merit scholarships that can range anywhere between $10,000 and $35,000 for the program. So you could get as little as 10% of the program covered or as much as 60% of the program covered. And I'll talk a little bit about how we determine that on the next slide. For us, we have research assistantships that are available for LLM students as well. And so students can apply for those during their first semester. And of course, there's some on-campus jobs that students can come into as well. So that's just an example of what certain types of financial aid would look like at a university. Like I mentioned, in order to receive a better scholarship, we're using the same application materials that you applied to for admission as part of that process. For most schools, what we want to see is that you show a strong interest in the school. So as you're writing your statement of purpose, as you're requesting letters of recommendation or interacting with the admissions office, this is where it's really important to make sure you've done some research on the school. Think of the school giving you a scholarship as an investment in you. And you need to try and make the case as to why the school should invest some money into your studies and what that investment would look like. So it's really important to make your application specific to the school. This is, again, for the personal statement, it's very easy to just, not make it specific to the school and use the same personal statement. If you're applying to, 10 schools, you can just use the same document. I always recommend maybe making 1 or 2 sentences in there that you can replace and that you can make custom for each school. So you can talk about a certain professor or a certain class or the location of the school, things that make the school attractive to you and it would make you a good student at that school. Again, you'll want to talk with the admissions office. Don't be afraid to reach out. If you know any alumni or current students at the school, that's always a great way. I always say the students that we know your name, we generally tend to remember you through the admissions process, and that can be good for your admission and also your scholarship as well. And of course, you want to make sure you get very strong letters of recommendation. So make sure you have people writing recommendation letters for you who can speak to your ability and recommend you highly for the program. So just really briefly, I'll just talk just for 1 minute about Emory University, and then I'm happy to take any questions on what I presented after the second half of the presentation. So Emory is a private university. We're located here in Atlanta, Georgia, which is in the south of the United States, right above Florida. We have a beautiful campus that's surrounded by a lot of residential neighborhoods, parks, and we're really close to downtown Atlanta, which is a huge part. You may remember Atlanta from the 1996 Olympics. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's a great place. Our LLM degree is a 24 credit degree. We do only offer it on campus, so you do have to study here in Atlanta. And you can start in either the fall or the spring semester. These are just the application dates. So for the fall semester, it's June 30th. For the spring semester, it's November 30th. So just some things to keep in mind if you do decide to apply to the program here at Emory. But I'm happy to talk more about Emory and the specific programs that we offer or any of the other things that I talked about after. Again, feel free to send me an email or send me a WhatsApp. Always happy to chat and talk a little bit further about that as well. So with that, I will stop my presentation. I will hand it over to my colleague Samudra from UC Davis, and she'll talk to you a little bit more about her programs and some other topics as well.
Hello, welcome, and thank you, Anthony. Konnichiwa, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity, and thanks for taking time. So that was great information Anthony provided for you. And I'm going to talk about a little bit more tips, and there are many LLM programs in the US. So I'm just going to talk about how to find the best program for you and some more best practices for you. Because it could be different. When I say you, it's important to realize one program may be fit for your friend or for your brother or sister, but it may be not for you. So it's always good to keep that in mind. Try to find the best program for you. So, so let's talk about how should you choose a school good for you. So these are some items.
Sorry to interrupt. Could you make it slideshow?
Is it good? Is it good? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's talk about what are the items to think about. So faculty is a really important part of that your decision-making process, because this faculty at law schools, they may have a special field they are famous for. They may be doing some cutting-edge research in that area. So that may be something you may be interested in, the same area. So that may be a good fit for you. And also it's good kind of do some research that any law school, I'm sure Emory does, UC Davis does, that we have a faculty profiles in our website. So you can go and do some research about read everybody's bios if possible and see any of the faculty interests match your interest. And also you can have an idea that number of professors available at that law school. So it's good to know that there are a variety of professors and diversity of professors available. So I would recommend doing that important step, looking at the faculty and their bios. So the next one, alumni success. So again, most law schools, they either in their newsletter or in their social media or in their website. Like I know UC Davis School of Law, we have a testimonial section and we feature our alumni stories. So you can look at, are there any alumni from Japan? Are there any alumni from your home city or even in your law school? So you can look at those profiles and get to know them and also see what they, after their LLM program, you can read about what is their success or what they're doing right now. And that means if there's a successful alumni, that may be a good school. And if they have alumni from your same country or same law school, that may be an extra plus for you. You can at that point approach the alumni, and at UC Davis that if you tell us that you would like to connect with an alumni from your country, we can facilitate that. And I'm sure other law schools do the same. And another area that kind of to keep eye on, a career service office and some other support services for students, that at least keep eye on these activities in social media, that if they have a career service events throughout the year, or do they have like a resume writing workshops or cover letter writing workshops? I mean, things like that, kind of an indicator, this law school may help with my future. If I wanted to find a job in the US or internship, maybe this may be a good fit for me. If that's my intention. So if you wanted to finish your LLM program and then go back to your country, that may be not really relevant to you, but I would still suggest that if you end up starting an LLM program, take advantage of these services on campus. That will, even if you're applying for a job in your home country, that may be helpful for you to polish your resume and have a good cover letter. And also reputation. Have you heard of this law school? That's kind of the #1 thing. And what legacy it's leave in the legal field. So that means that, have you read in legal, when you read in an article related to legal field, are these names mentioned in these articles? So that I'm sure you have heard of Emory. I'm sure you have heard of UC Davis, at least starting today. So that's a good thing. Also ranking, I just wanted to let you know, ranking maybe not the only thing that you should be looking for, but there are ranking in US News, and there's a special report for law school ranking. So most of the law school ranking are based on their JD program. So the LLM programs are considered not part of the ranking, the main, the US News ranking. So just to keep that in mind, that also you can ask the law school which field of law that you specialize in, and you can kind of get an idea that that which schools that I know many law schools offer general LLM programs, but if you are specifically looking for special field of interest, that you can research a little bit and see that is this law school good for my field of interest. Also, the last slide, I talked about a little bit about faculty. So it is important, again, I have a second slide of faculty because it's really important part of your graduate school journey. So a little bit about US faculty. They tend to be available for students than compared to many other countries. That's the feedback I have heard. So faculty are normally available during office hours and email and tax and things like that. So if you're talking to alumni, this may be a good question to ask. Is your faculty accessible to students? Because sometimes some law school, the faculties maybe very busy to meet with students. So which is not a great thing, but that you can at least ask alumni, or you can do your own research to see that which type of faculty at this specific law school, and also faculty's involvement with the LLM students. That may be another indicator. So some other items to think about when you're looking for an LLM program. Are you planning to do a general LLM, or are you planning to do a specialized LLM? That means you wanted to study environment law, business law, and the list can go on and on. But if you have a specialization in mind, you can already kind of narrow down your list of law schools that you may want it to apply. And also, if you're thinking to take the bar examination, I know Anthony covered about this topic, that at UC Davis, we do have bar preparation. So if that's something you're interested, that's a question you can ask upfront from the law school. You can ask which type of bar preparation you provide at your university. So they may be able to tell you exactly what they do, so you can assess the help that you will be getting during the LLM program. And also this question that has come up recently from student a lot. So student has been asking me that can students transfer from LLM program to a JD? Just to give you a little bit context, in the US, the students, the legal education system may be a little different than other countries, that students needed to have an undergraduate degree before they go to law school. So students will first get an undergraduate degree Then they will go to a JD program. And then after the JD program, they will sit for the bar examination, and then they can practice law. But the foreign lawyers, they may come with their undergraduate law degree, which is equal to JD. But when they come to the United States to study a LLM program, they may wanted to, they may know this early on, this is what they wanted to do, but they may wanted to transfer to a JD program and have a US JD degree. So at least at UC Davis, how this works, student will come to LLM program, and at UC Davis at that point, if they do really great, the LLM program, that they can sit with the advisor and talk about how they can transfer to a JD program. At that point, they don't have to take LSAC, the law school admission examination, at least at UC Davis. And then the students will be recommended to transfer. And then at the end of the day, student will get a JD degree, not both degrees, at least at UC Davis. So if that's something that you're thinking about, that's something you can ask from the law school upfront. Okay, so the next thing that the one-year LLM programs are kind of the traditional LLM programs, but last few years, the two-year LLM programs has been popular. So if you wanted to do a LLM program in 1 year, great. That there are many schools offer that option, but if you wanted to do a 2-year LLM program, that's something that you should ask from the law school you're applying, or look in their website. And at least I know that UC Davis School of Law, we do offer 1-year program and a 2-year program. So these are kind of the list of things, that questions that I'm kind of going over for you to think about. And if that's relevant to you, you can write down, and then when contacting law schools, that you can ask those questions. And also another thing to kind of keep eye on, that what are the available student enrichment programs at these law schools? How many clubs and organizations, and what kind of activities they have going on? Do they have guest lectures, conferences, and which type of professional activities you can involve in? And the best place to do this, in my opinion, if you narrow down, I recommend my students always to narrow down a short list of law schools, like 4 or 5. I don't know, maybe Anthony maybe recommended a different number, but I do talk to, when I talk to students, I would say 4 to 5 law schools. But in this kind of short list, you can add them to your social media, and then keep eye on the activities happening at these law schools. Because we just want to make sure this law school is pretty active and give you all the opportunities, because this is huge time investment and financial investment. Yeah, and also these are some other tips, that do you have any existing connection to a particular school, a friend or a family member? You can ask questions, but at the same time, remember, it's ultimately you're choosing a school, a good fit for you. And also, if you have children and a family, you may want to look at a safe and family-oriented, maybe a community. So location may be an important consideration for you. And also which kind of accommodations that the university is able to provide you. Also, again, some other amenities like recreation centers and things like that, are those available? So most of the US universities do have, but if you have a special interest, that you should check with the law school that the availability of that. And also, do you like to live in a big city or a small town? So that may be another fact for you to think about. And also a weather, if that's a particular interest for you, that you should consider that too. And just a little bit about just moving to my law school. I have like very few slides, just quickly talk about UC Davis School of Law. We are located in California, beautiful California, close to the Sacramento, which is the state capital, and close to San Francisco. And we do have about 36,000 students and 500 law schools. And these are a few pictures, safe, family friendly, and it's a college town. That means most of the people in the town are students and faculty and staff, and also somehow connected to the university, most of the people. And we do have a Mediterranean beautiful climate. And we do have general LLM program, and then you can customize your LLM program. And we do have another thing to kind of consider when you wanted to start your LLM program. So at UC Davis School of Law, we do have a August, which is fall start in our university, and a January start. So that's another thing for you to ask from specific law schools, what is your intake. And these are some special concentrations at our law school. And this is my email address, and feel free to connect with me anytime. And I'm happy to provide my WhatsApp number too. I do not have a Line account, but if that's popular, I know in Japan, I'm happy to connect with whatever the way you like me to communicate with. And I'm happy to help with the application process or any other questions related to my law school or any other law school in the US, because ultimately I know that I'm repeating what Anthony also mentioned. We just want to find the best program for you. And listen, we all wanted you to come to either Emory or UC Davis, but ultimately we wanted to help you to get whatever the best place you wanted to go. And thank you so much. And I wanted to say a huge thank you to Education USA for hosting us today. And Anthony, thank you so much. It was so honored to present this presentation with you. And thank you, students, for taking your time. And we can open the floor for questions right now.
Yeah, I think so. We can go through the questions, and I saw a bunch that came in to go through. So we can start with that. So it's okay. I can read it out, and then we can both answer the questions if you want. So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so we can start with the ones in the question and answer section. So okay. I'll go through them and read them out loud so everybody can hear the question, and then we'll answer. Please, as we're answering questions, if you have any other ones, please keep sending them in, and we'll be able to get to as many as we can. So the first one says, I'm interested in practicing health law. Would my background as a phlebotomist help in that path? Another question is, which schools do you think have good healthcare law programs? I know I can Google, but wanted your perspective. I will start real quick because I do want to put in a plug for Emory on this one. We have a very, very strong and well-known healthcare law program. Our new dean that we hired 2 years ago, Dean Marianne Bobinski, is one of the leading health scholars. Emory's campus is also located right where the CDC is here in the United States. So it's a very strong healthcare program. So I definitely recommend. I'm happy to talk further about that. Emory's a good choice. But I know Duke, for example, in North Carolina has a very strong health law program. Penn State is another one that comes to mind. They have a very strong healthcare law program. Samudra, any thoughts from you on strong healthcare law programs?
At UC Davis, we do have healthcare law and bioethics program that if you're interested, and we also have a medical school. So there might be some type of opportunities being part of having a law school and medical school at UC Davis. I think just like Anthony mentioned, all those schools sounds great. And I would recommend, I know that llmguide.com, it's llmguide.com. They do have like a top 10 list for different specific areas. But right now we have two options for you right here. So please keep in touch with Anthony and me both, and we're happy to help you with that.
Yeah, that's a great question though. That's definitely one thing you want to consider as you're looking to LLM programs. The next question that I see is, what is the average cost of attendance for international students after scholarship or aid? You wanna start with that one? Maybe you can talk a little bit about UC Davis, and I can talk a little bit.
Yeah. So our tuition, it's about $56,000. Just the tuition part. So we do have fellowships that, but the good thing that we don't have a special application for fellowships or scholarships. So when you submit your application, and I know Anthony gave some great tips how to have a strong application for scholarships. So at UC Davis, that we look at your recommendation letters and personal statement, strong personal statement. And so the scholarship money will, or the fellowship money will be taken out of the full, that $56,000. So, and the rest of the amount, that's what you're responsible for. And also you at UC Davis, you could pay like in 2 installments if you're in 1-year program. And so that's kind of about scholarship and information.
Yeah, I would say on average, depending on the school that you're looking at, but for an LLM student, your most likely tuition will be anywhere between $40,000 and $60,000 in that range. I would say after scholarships, on average, I would expect to be paying between $30,000 and $50,000 for a degree. Some schools will be more generous with their scholarships, so it might be less than that, which would be a good surprise, but I think that's a general range for you to look at. And that will differ as well. So in the United States, like many places, we have private universities and then we have state universities. So the state universities are going to be funded by governments, and they will have significantly cheaper tuition, whereas private universities will have a little bit more expensive tuition, but could also be more generous with scholarships. So you'll have to just do some research on that side as well. So next question. I majored in international relations in undergrad and public policy in my graduate study in the US. Am I applicable to apply to a law school? I took international human rights law at my graduate school and will work for protection section in an international organization. That's a tough one. So for LLM degrees, you do need to have a first degree in law. So either a bachelor's in law or a JD already completed before entering an LLM program, but you would certainly be eligible to apply to Juris Doctor programs if you wanted to skip that part. But any advice here, Simojo?
Yeah, so at UC Davis, that we do make exceptions. So we had a student like 2 days ago that she's from Korea and she worked for the Korean government doing international law, but have a undergraduate public policy international relationship degree. And she have been work history like 10 plus years of doing international law. So in exception situation like that, somebody have an extreme background in legal field, that there is a chance at UC Davis that a student may able to get accepted. But this specific student, I know I worked with her this week, so it's fresh knowledge. Her intention to do the LLM program and then transfer to JD program. So.
Yeah, that's definitely a way. I know we've made similar exceptions, largely if a student's licensed to practice law in their home country and they don't have the law degree, sometimes that can happen as well. So sometimes we will see that as well, but you would need to check with an individual school to see if you would be eligible. So next question that's coming up, is it difficult for applicants without working experience to enter law schools, either LLM or JD? Can part-time jobs be counted as working experience? You want to take this one?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, no, it's asking if working experience, if it's difficult for students without working experience to
oh yeah
an LLM program.
Yeah. Sorry. So at UC, I can talk behalf of UC Davis. We when we are trying to create an LLM class, a cohort of students, we try to bring students with different backgrounds. We would like students from fresh out of law school from their home country. And then we like students if they have like a few years of experience, or we welcome students who have 15 years of experience, because we trust that that will reach the conversation in the classroom. So because we value that so much, we do a holistic review, which means we look at everything about you. So if you don't have any experience, that's okay. You may have maybe strong in other areas. So you will still have a very good chance get admissions. And so I would say if you have experience, great, include in your resume and talk about in your personal statement. But if you don't self-select yourself saying, oh, you have no chance. So don't do that mistake.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, it's the schools, but working experience is generally not a requirement. It's sort of one of those nice to haves that can give you a little bonus, but I don't think it's a requirement. So next question, I don't have a good GPA while I was an undergraduate student and I'm currently working. Do you have any advice on getting admitted to a law school? So for this one, yeah, this is where sort of that holistic review process really comes into play. So generally, a bad GPA won't be the deciding factor. We won't automatically deny you because of a low GPA. In that case, I would really highlight your working experience. I think that can be very valuable, especially if it's in the legal field. That can go a long way. Make sure you have strong letters of recommendation, people who can speak to your ability to succeed in a classroom, but also you know, any work that you've done as well. And then again, the personal statement, you want to make sure that's really strong. And I would always recommend addressing it. You know, in your statement, include a section saying, this is why my GPA was low. You know, I was younger, I was in a subject I didn't like, I had family or medical problems, things like that, that can explain why your GPA was low, can also help us try and, you know, determine why that happened. And like I said, if you have a low GPA, you have, you've addressed it in your personal statement and the rest of your application is really strong, there's still a chance that you can be admitted to a school. So I wouldn't say necessarily rule it out. Any other advice?
Yeah, so just one more thing to add, that many students tell me that that I do have a not good of a GPA because the grading system is very, very rigorous at my university. Or they may say that it is like a more, like a whole state, it's a regional thing. It's very, very tough, the grading scale. So if that's the case, that you can talk about in the personal statement and you can tell that story. You can say, my university, this is the grading scale, and the top of my class. I mean, I had a student, again, this week tells me, not from Japan, but a student tells me the percentage is like 54%. And the top of the class, there's 3 students who love her, which is between 54 and 60 out of 6, like 100%. And the average is like 47 or something. So she knew all these new like numbers. So if she can have documents to kind of back up her story, that's great. If not, you can tell that story in your personal statement. And our admission officers read thousands of applications last years and years. So they may have very well seen the similar transcripts like yours from your same region, same law school. So it's okay, and take advantage of telling your story if that's the case.
Yeah. All right, next question. Is the LSAT or GRE required to enter an LLM program? The answer is no. Again, you'll want to check specifically by school, but I can't think of any schools off the top of my head that require that. Almost the only test requirement will be either a TOEFL score or an IELTS score, but that will depend on the school as well. So you'll want to check on what their requirements are around that for the test scores, but you won't need to take an LSAT or a GRE for the LLM. Next question. I'm now 35 years old. Is age an important factor for your law school to consider when selecting students for admission? For example, is it possible that the younger they are, the higher your estimation of them will be? No. I've had students who are almost in their late 50s, almost 60 years old, come into the program, and we've had students as young as 22, 23 come into the program as well. So there's a lot. Anything else you want to add to me, Joy?
In the US, there's no, any university, there's no age cap or discrimination. There might be like age, like a minimum requirement, like if you're 16 or 17, but there's no age cap. And I mean, same thing, just like Anthony, I have had many students who are like 60 years old, and this is their 3rd career, maybe wanted to become a lawyer or in legal field or something like that. They wanted to do LLM to change their legal career. So yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you come, 35 is great.
Yeah, and to Sabuja's earlier point too, as we build the class, we're also looking for diversity in that, right? So we're looking for students who have diverse backgrounds and come from different places, but also different ages, different types of experiences coming in. So I think that's good as well. Next question is asking what happened to my ceiling. This, if you see it in the background. Unfortunately, I had a pipe leak in my apartment. So they're in the middle of repairing it. And unfortunately, my desk is right next to it. So you've got, I promise this is not what apartments in Atlanta look like if you'd like to come to Atlanta, but be prepared tomorrow, hopefully. Next question. I've heard that first-year law students shouldn't juggle with any other obligations, such as part-time jobs. But you've mentioned that your campus has on-campus job opportunities. What are your thoughts on it? I can go really briefly, and then feel free to jump in. We always recommend students, again, usually at least for the first semester, to focus on their coursework, especially if you've never been to the United States before and are adjusting. But my general recommendation is if you feel comfortable and you feel like your academics, you feel comfortable in class, you understanding the material, and you have no hesitations about that, I think it's a great way to get some experience and go through that as well. For us, again, academics is always the most important. So as long as you feel like you've got a good understanding of what's going on, then we always encourage students to get some part-time job opportunities on campus. Working in the gym, my office, the admissions office, we hire students to do various things and talk to other students. So there's good opportunities there as well. But yeah, anything you want to add, Samudra?
Yeah, we had one of our recent graduates actually worked at our on-campus police department and learned about criminal justice system in California. So that was while she was getting paid, she was learning, and she did finish the cadet program on campus too. So those kind of like opportunities, I think our international, at least my experience, our international students are so strong academically. So if you think you can balance both, I have seen students able to do that. So yeah, I think after first couple of months, after you kind of, after over your cultural shock and you figure out everything independently to do, maybe it's a good idea to have a part-time job, even though, I mean, law school curriculum is extremely rigorous, but I have seen many students able to manage.
Yeah, I mean, my other recommendation too is if there's something that you've always wanted to do as a part-time job, but you weren't able to do because you were working or in school, always wanted to work at like a Starbucks, and the campus has a Starbucks, and you want to learn to make coffee because, after you're going back to your regular office job and you won't be able to do that anymore. It's always a good time to get some of those experiences as well. So it looks like we had one final question before we wrap up. And that question is, which school is a good school for learning criminal law? I will say pretty much every law school in the United States has a strong criminal. It's kind of especially here in the US with the common law system, it's a big part of what you'll do. So almost every school will have it. I know we've got a strong criminal law system. Any of your top schools, I would say that you're looking at is probably going to be a really good school in criminal law. But it depends what type. I mean, there's many types underneath criminal law as well. Some schools will focus more on the defense side and public service. Some schools, especially like larger state schools, I'm thinking like a University of Florida, University of Alabama, North Carolina. They're big schools that create, one of their focuses is to create prosecutors and district attorneys for their states. So they have a good focus on those. For us here at Emory, we're a private institution, so the focus for us on the criminal side is more along the lines of reforming criminal justice, so more along the lines of making it a more equitable and fair and just system. But other schools also have different specialties within that as well. So it's a really broad field, but every school will have a focus of some kind within criminal justice or criminal law. But yeah, any final words on that?
I think you covered it. Yeah. Good.
Excellent. Well, yeah, that'll do it for us then. It was a real pleasure. I hope we'll stay in contact with you all after the session. It was really great to have you all join the session. I hope you learned something, and we're always happy to talk with you afterwards and talk more about the law schools here in the United States. Any final words from the EdUSA folks on the call?
Anthony and Samdura, thank you very much for your great presentation. It was very informative and helpful. I learned a lot about law schools by myself as well. And thank you very much for everyone for submitting questions. I will stop recording the webinar here. And